The distress signal came from the dark side of 4, a frozen moon at the edge of Concordat space. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn and watched the broken station grow larger on the. Smoke rose from cracked domes. Bodies floated in the vacuum between twisted metal beams. "Attack signatures," Lieutenant said from her station. Her voice was calm, but her hands moved fast across the controls. "At least 6 hours old, maybe 8. Park nodded slowly. They were a reptilian species known throughout the galaxy for their raids. They attacked fast, took what they wanted, and left. They were predators in the truest sense. When their hunger was satisfied, they stopped. That was the nature of all predator species in the Concordat. They fought for food, for territory, for dominance. Once they got what they needed, the violence ended. "Any survivors?" Park asked. "Scanning now," paused. 17 life signs, scattered, some are fatting. Park turned to his crew. "Rescue teams ready in 5 minutes, full combat gear, they might still be close." Ambassador stepped forward. He was young for a diplomat, barely 30 years old, and this was his first deep space assignment. "Captain, shouldn't we wait for Concordat support? They are dangerous. If they return." "Then we'll deal with them," Park said simply. "Those people down there don't have time to wait." The rescue teams launched within the hour. Park led the first group himself, walking through the ruined corridors of the research station with his rifle ready. The walls were marked with claw strikes and burn patterns. They had come through here like a storm. They found the first survivors hiding in a sealed laboratory. 3 scientists, a deer-like species with large eyes and delicate frames, huddled behind overturned tables. They flinched when the humans entered, then stared in confusion. "You came," one of them whispered. His name was, and he was a diplomatic observer, not a scientist. He had been visiting the station when the attack happened. "We sent the signal, but we did not think anyone would come so quickly." "We were close," Park said. "Can you walk?" Nodded, still staring at the humans. He had read files about this species. They were classified as predators. They ate meat. They had forward-facing eyes. They made war. But they didn't move like predators. Predators were aggressive, dominant, loud. These humans were quiet, methodical, patient. The rescue continued for hours. The humans searched every room, every collapsed tunnel, every broken section of the station. They found survivors in places that should have been impossible to reach. They cut through walls, climbed through wreckage, and refused to stop. Watched them work with growing unease. A predator would have declared victory by now. A predator would have taken what was easy to find and left the rest. These humans kept searching long after any reasonable species would have given up. "Why do you continue?" asked one of the human soldiers, a woman named who was cutting through a collapsed support beam with a plasma torch. "You have found many survivors. Surely that is enough." Didn't look up from her work. "There are still people missing." "But the cost, the time, the danger." Now she looked at him. Her face was covered in dust and sweat. "We don't leave people behind." They saved 17 survivors that day. 6 more had died before the humans could reach them. Park stood over the bodies and said nothing for a long time, put a hand on his shoulder. "We did everything we could," she said. "Did we?" Park's voice was heavy. "If we had been faster." "We came as fast as anyone could." Park nodded, but his eyes were hard. He ordered the bodies brought aboard the Eternal Dawn. They would be returned to their families. That was the human way. You didn't leave people behind, not the living, not the dead. The survivors were given food, medical care, and warm beds. Sat in the ship's common area, wrapped in a blanket, watching the humans move around him. They smiled at him. They asked if he needed anything. They treated him like he mattered. This was strange. They had treated the station crew like prey, resources to be consumed or discarded. These humans treated strangers like family. Ambassador sat down next to, "How are you feeling?" "Confused," admitted. "You are predators. Your files say this clearly. but you do not act like any predators I know." Smiled slightly. "What do predators act like?" "They take what they want, they establish dominance. Then they stop, they are satisfied," shook his head. "You are not satisfied, I can see it in your captain's eyes. He saved 17 lives today, but he is not happy. He is thinking about the 6 he lost." "That's just how we are," said. "We don't stop when we're satisfied, we stop when we're finished." Before could ask what that meant, alarms began to sound across the ship. Park ran to the bridge with close behind. The showed new contacts, warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 3 of them, then 5, then 8. "They came back," said, "with reinforcements." A transmission came through. The face of a filled the screen. His scales were dark green and scars crossed his snout. His eyes were cold and confident. "Human vessel," he said. You have taken our prey. The survivors from that station belong to us. Return them and you may leave this system alive." Park stepped forward. His voice was steady. "Those people are under our protection now. They're not your prey, they're our responsibility." Laughed a harsh clicking sound. "You are 1 ship against 8. You are prey now too, human, be smart. Give us what we claimed." Park looked at the survivors gathered in the common area. He looked at the bodies in the cargo hold. He looked at his crew, who watched him and waited. "No," he said. Laughter faded. "Then you will die here." Park straightened his shoulders. "They hurt people under our protection. We're not leaving until this is finished." Felt a chill run through him. He had expected the humans to negotiate. He had expected them to flee. Any sensible prey would run from such odds. Even predators knew when they were outmatched But the humans did neither. They stayed. They prepared for battle, and in Captain Park's eyes saw something that frightened him more than they ever had. He saw patience. He saw certainty. He saw a creature that would not stop until the very end, whatever that end might be. Realized then that he had never truly understood what humans were, and he was beginning to think that no one in the galaxy did. Watched the human ship from his command throne and tried to understand what he was seeing. The Eternal Dawn was smaller than his flagship. It was alone against 8 warships. By every law of nature, it should be running. Instead, it was holding position. "They do not flee," his second officer said, confusion clear in his voice. "Perhaps they are damaged. Perhaps they cannot run." "Their engines are functional," replied. "I can see the heat signatures. They choose to stay." This made no sense. Had fought many species in his long life. Prey animals panicked and scattered when outnumbered. Predator species were smarter. They weighed the odds, accepted losses when necessary, and retreated to fight another day. No creature was foolish enough to fight a battle it could not win. Yet here the humans sat, broadcasting no surrender, requesting no negotiations. Ordered the attack. The first exchange of fire lasted 12 minutes. The Eternal Dawn took heavy damage to its port side. Fires burned in 3 sections. But Lieutenant did not panic. She had trained for moments like this her entire life. She coordinated a fighting withdrawal, using the moon's gravity to swing the ship around and shield its damaged side. And in that swing, she found angles that they did not expect. 2 ships exploded in quick succession. Their captains had been confident, careless. They had pushed too close, certain the wounded human ship was finished. "They destroyed 2 of our vessels," the officer reported, his voice now uncertain. "With 1 damaged ship. How?" Did not answer. He was staring at them with new eyes. This was not the behavior of prey or predator. This was something else entirely. Captain Park ordered the Eternal Dawn to land on the moon's surface. The ship set down near an abandoned mining complex, a defensible position with thick walls and limited entry points. The survivors were moved inside. The crew prepared for a ground war. Sergeant Han Minyu was a veteran of the colony wars, 20 years of combat experience written in the scars on his face and hands. He had 40 soldiers under his command. Against them, they would send 300 warriors. The numbers should have been impossible. You did not care about numbers. Set the traps here and here, he told his squad leaders, pointing at a map of the complex. Rotating defensive positions. Nobody stays in one place too long. We fight smart, we fight slow, and we make them pay for every meter. Sir, a young soldier asked, how long do we have to hold? Minyu looked at him. Until it's over. When will it be over? When everyone comes home. The first assault came at dawn. 300 warriors charged across the frozen ground, confident in their superior numbers. They were fast and strong, with thick scales that could stop small-caliber rounds and claws that could tear through metal. They hit the first trap line and lost 40 soldiers in seconds, mines buried in the ice, tripwires connected to explosives. The humans had prepared the ground with terrible patience. They pushed through, they always pushed through, that was their nature. Pain meant nothing, death meant nothing, only victory mattered. They reached the mining complex walls and found human soldiers waiting. Minyu's troops fired from prepared positions, then fell back before they could close the distance. They appeared in new positions, fired again and fell back again. They could not pin them down. Every time they thought they had cornered a human squad, that squad vanished and appeared somewhere else. It was like fighting ghosts. The battle lasted 3 days. Watched from orbit, growing more frustrated with each passing hour. His warriors were dying by the dozens, but the humans would not break. They did not sleep. They did not rest. They simply kept fighting, kept falling back, kept making the pay. On the 4th day, landed personally with fresh troops. He needed to see these humans for himself. He walked through the battlefield and saw the bodies of his warriors. Many had been killed by traps or ambushes, but some had died in close combat. He found one warrior with a human knife buried in his eye socket. Another had been strangled with a length of wire. These humans fought like cornered animals, but they did not have the desperation of cornered animals. There was no panic in their tactics, only cold, patient determination. Watched the battle from inside the mining complex. He was not a soldier, but even he could see that the humans were losing. They were outnumbered, running low on ammunition and medical supplies. By any reasonable calculation, they should surrender. He found Ambassador treating a wounded soldier in the medical bay. You cannot win this fight, said. They would accept a tribute, a partial surrender. They have one, they just want acknowledgement. Why do you not negotiate? Wrapped a bandage around the soldier's arm. His hands were steady despite the exhaustion in his eyes. They killed 6 people at that station. They took prisoners who are still missing. We can't negotiate until we know what happened to them. But you are dying here. Your soldiers are dying for what? Looked at him, for them, for the people we couldn't save, for the people who might still be alive somewhere. He paused. We don't stop when we're satisfied, we stop when we're finished. Eventually contacted the Eternal Dawn directly. Park met him on his face dirty and tired but his eyes still hard. You fight well for soft creatures, said, but you cannot win. What do you want? Park's answer was simple. Return our dead, return your prisoners, leave this system, face justice for what you've done. Laughed. You are prey making demands of predators. You do not have the strength to force such terms. Maybe not today, but we'll find it. We'll keep fighting until we do. Why, what drives you? I have killed your people. I have proven my dominance. Any predator would accept this and move on. Park leaned forward. That's the difference between us. Predators stop when they're satisfied. We don't. Ended the transmission. He sat in silence for a long time, thinking about what the human had said. He had fought predators before. He understood predators. They were driven by hunger, by instinct, by the need for territory and dominance. Once those needs were met, the violence ended. But these humans seemed to have no such limits. Their hunger, if it could be called that, was for something abstract. Justice, revenge, protection of their own. These were not needs that could be satisfied with food or territory. For the first time in his long life, felt the cold touch of doubt. He had started this fight expecting easy prey. Now he was beginning to wonder if he had awakened something far more dangerous. Something that would not stop until one side was completely destroyed. The news spread across Concordat space like fire through dry grass. A single human ship was holding against 40 human soldiers were fighting 300 warriors to a standstill. The impossible was happening on a frozen moon at the edge of known space. The Concordat High Council met in emergency session. Representatives from 47 species filled the great chamber, their voices raised in argument and confusion. High Speaker stood at the center of the room. She was an avian species, covered in silver feathers, with sharp eyes that had studied humanity for 30 years. She had warned the council before that humans were different. Now, perhaps, they would listen. "We must intervene," a delegate insisted. "They have attacked a Concordat station. This is a violation of treaty." "And the humans are handling it," another delegate replied. "Why should we risk our ships for a fight that is already being fought?" "Because they will lose," they said. "They are outnumbered. Eventually they will fall." Raised a wing for silence. "I do not believe they will lose." The chamber fell quiet. Everyone knew had studied humans more than any other Concordat scholar. Her words carried weight. "They are predators," continued. "True predators in the biological sense. They hunt from instinct. When their hunger is satisfied, they stop. When their territorial drive is met, they stop. This is the nature of all predator species we have encountered. Violence has a purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, peace returns." She paused, looking around the chamber. Humans are different. They are classified as predators because of their biology. They eat meat, they have predator eyes, they evolved as hunters. But they do not behave like predators. They are something else entirely. "What are they then?" a delegate asked. "Persistence hunters," said. "Their ancestors on Earth did not chase prey to catch it quickly. They were not fast enough for that. Instead, they chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They followed their targets across days, weeks. They never stopped moving, never stopped tracking, never gave up. Their prey would run and run and run, and the humans would simply follow, patient and relentless, until the prey could run no more." The chamber was silent now. Every delegate was listening. "This trait is written deep in their nature," continued. "Humans do not stop when satisfied. They stop when finished. They do not accept partial victories. They do not acknowledge defeat until they are physically incapable of continuing. And even then, they pass the fight to the next generation." A trade representative stood up. "You make them sound like monsters." "Not monsters," said. "Simply different. Consider what is happening on 4. They attacked expecting easy prey. When the humans fought back, they expected them to negotiate or flee. That is what prey does. When the humans neither negotiated nor fled, they expected them to fight briefly and accept defeat. That is what outmatched predators do. But the humans have done none of these things. They are simply continuing." "Continuing to die," the representative said. "Continuing to fight," corrected, "and continuing to kill. They have lost 2 ships and over 100 warriors, against 40 soldiers and 1 damaged vessel. How many more will die before this is finished?" The question hung in the air. Far across Concordat space, Admiral Song received her orders. She was 63 years old, a small woman with gray hair and cold eyes. She had commanded the 7th Fleet for 15 years, and in that time she had never lost a major engagement. She gathered her staff in the flagship's briefing room. Doctor, the fleets, presented his analysis of the situation. "They will not back down easily," said. "To them, this has become a matter of dominance. If they retreat from a single human ship, they lose status among their own kind. They will keep fighting until they win or until winning becomes impossible." "Then we make it impossible," Song said. "Admiral, there is something else you should understand about this situation," pulled up images from the battle. "The humans on 4 are not fighting to survive. They are fighting to protect. There is a difference." "Explain." "Animals fight to survive. When survival is impossible, they accept death. But these humans are not fighting for themselves. They are fighting for the survivors they rescued, for the dead they could not save, for abstract concepts like justice and duty." Shook his head slowly. "They have no survival instinct to override. They will fight until every single one of them is dead, and even then they will expect us to continue in their place." Song nodded slowly. "Then we will not disappoint them." The Seventh Fleet jumped to 4 3 days later. 40 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel and formed a wall between the moon and the forces. Watched the new arrivals with something close to despair. He had expected reinforcements, but not this many, not this fast. The humans had come from across their territory to defend strangers on a frozen moon. Song sent a single transmission. "I am Admiral Song of the Human Defense Force. You have one chance to surrender. Human memory is long. Human reach is longer. If you flee now, we will find you. If you fight now, we will destroy you. If you harm another prisoner, there will be no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy. Choose." Lieutenant approached him. "The odds have changed. Perhaps we should withdraw, regroup, return with greater forces." "And what then?" asked. "They will remember, they will hunt us. Did you not hear what she said? Human memory is long." He stared at the wall of human warships blocking his escape. Other predator species would have left him a way out. That was the civilized thing to do. You defeated your enemy, proved your dominance, and let them retreat with some small dignity. The humans had left no escape route, no face-saving gesture, no way out except through them. "What kind of predators do not leave their enemy a way to retreat?" his lieutenant asked. Finally understood. He had understood too late, but he understood now. "They are not predators," he said quietly. "They are something worse, something that does not stop, something that does not know when to be satisfied." He gripped his command throne with clawed hands. "We have made a terrible mistake." But there was no way to undo it now. The hunt was on, and the humans were no longer the prey. They never had been. Made his choice in the cold silence of his command deck. His warriors watched him, waiting for orders. Behind them, the human fleet hung in space like an executioner's blade. Retreat was not possible, not really. The humans had made clear that they would follow, that they would hunt, that they would remember. If ran now, he would spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. His people would be marked. His clan would be shamed. And so he chose to fight. It was the only answer his instincts would allow. When cornered, a predator attacks. It was nature. It was law. "All ships," he ordered, "attack formation. We will break through their line and escape. Show no fear, show no weakness." The fleet surged forward. Admiral Song watched them come. She sat in her command chair with perfect stillness, her hands folded in her lap. Around her, officers called out reports and coordinates. Weapons locked on targets. Shields powered up. "They're committing fully," her tactical officer reported. "No reserves, no fallback positions." "They think this is a dominance display," Song said quietly. "They think if they hit us hard enough, we'll give them room to escape." She shook her head. "They still don't understand." The battle began. Human tactics were not built on glory or honor or proving superiority. They were built on one simple principle: end it. Not win beautifully, not demonstrate strength, just end it as quickly and completely as possible. Song's fleet did not meet the charge head-on. Instead, they split into hunting groups, 3 ships working together, covering each other, focusing fire on single targets. The formation broke apart within minutes as each warship found itself fighting multiple enemies at once. Chief Engineer worked miracles in the damaged hull of the Eternal Dawn. The ship had no business still flying, but refused to let it die. She rerouted power from non-essential systems. She sealed breaches with emergency patches. She kept the weapons firing and the shields flickering long past the point where any reasonable engineer would have declared the ship lost. "We can still fight," she reported to Captain Park. "Not well, not for long, but we can fight." "That's all I ask," Park replied. Lieutenant coordinated with the main fleet, directing fire patterns and identifying weak points in the formation. Her voice was calm and steady over the communications channel, a rock of certainty in the chaos of battle. On the moon's surface, Sergeant Han Minyu did not wait for rescue. He led his remaining soldiers in a counterattack against the ground forces. They had held for days. Now they pushed forward, driving into enemy positions with calculated fury. The warriors were shocked. Prey did not counterattack. Even wounded predators would hold their ground, not advance. But these humans came at them with rifles and blades and bare hands, fighting with a ferocity that had no name. Minyu lost 12 soldiers in that push, but he killed over 100 and reached the enemy command post. There, in a makeshift prison, he found what he was looking for. 3 survivors from the original station attack, prisoners, alive. "Sergeant," one of them whispered, with broken antlers and haunted eyes, "you came for us." Minyu helped him to his feet. "We always come." In orbit, the battle reached its peak. The human fleet pressed every advantage immediately, relentlessly. When a ship took damage, 3 human vessels would focus on it until it was destroyed. When a captain tried to regroup, human ships would cut off his allies and destroy them one by one. There was no pause to celebrate victories, no moment taken to savor success, just constant grinding pressure. Watched his disintegrate. Half his ships were gone. His warriors on the ground were in full retreat. The humans did not stop to consolidate gains or secure positions. They simply kept pushing, kept killing, kept destroying. He ordered a retreat. It was against every instinct he had, but survival finally overcame pride. His remaining ships turned and ran. The humans pursued. This was unprecedented. In every battle had ever fought, victory meant the fighting was over. The winner claimed their prize and stopped. They let the loser retreat, lick their wounds, and learn from the defeat. These humans chased his fleeing ships, destroying them one by one as they tried to escape. "They will not let us go," his lieutenant said, fear finally breaking through his warrior's mask. "They will hunt us to the last ship." Watched from the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn. The ship was barely holding together, but it was still in the fight. Ambassador stood beside him, watching the ships die. "You could let them go," whispered. "You've won, why continue?" His expression was hard, harder than had ever seen on the gentle diplomat. "Because they'll come back. Because they'll do this again to someone else. Because our people were still unaccounted for until Minyu found them." He paused. "We don't stop when we're satisfied. We stop when the threat is eliminated." "This is not war," said. "This is extermination." Number extermination would be hunting there. This is just making sure these specific attackers never hurt anyone again. Outside, another ship exploded in a silent flash of light. His flagship was crippled within the hour. Dead in space, engines destroyed, weapons offline. Admiral Song's transmission came through one final time. "Return our people, all of them, face trial or die here." Sat in his broken command chair. Around him, his warriors waited for orders. Some wanted to fight to the death, that was the Predator way, but could see in their eyes that many were simply afraid. They had never faced an enemy like this. They did not know how to fight something that would not stop. "I surrender," he said. The word tasted like poison, but he said it anyway. Human Marines boarded his flagship within the hour. They were professional and efficient, taking prisoners without unnecessary cruelty, but also without gentleness. They searched every compartment, found every hidden warrior, secured every weapon. Captain Park came aboard personally to take into custody. There was twice his size, clawed and scaled and built for killing, but it was who looked small. "What are you?" asked as the restraints locked around his wrists. Park looked at him with tired eyes. "We're human, we protect our own, and we never ever stop." Was led away to a human prison ship. He would face trial, he would face justice. The human way. Behind him the last ships were being rounded up. Every survivor was, every body was recovered. The humans counted everything, recorded everything, forgot nothing. The battle was over, but for they knew the lesson would last forever. They had learned what happened when you hurt people under human protection. They had learned what it meant to face a species that did not stop when satisfied. 1 year passed. The Concordat High Council gathered to witness something unprecedented, the trial of in a human court. The galaxy had expected vengeance. They had expected execution. They had expected the brutal efficiency that the humans had shown in battle. Instead, they got process. They got procedure. They got lawyers and judges and witnesses and evidence presented in careful, patient detail. High Speaker watched the proceedings from the observation gallery. She had studied humans for 30 years, and still they surprised her. "They could have killed him," a fellow delegate whispered. "After what he did, no one would have questioned it." "That is not the human way," replied. "They believe in something they call justice. It is not the same as vengeance, though it is easy to confuse the two." "What is the difference?" Considered the question. Vengeance is personal, it satisfies the hunger for pain, but justice is something else. It is a promise that actions have consequences, that wrong will be answered, that no one is above the rules. The trial lasted 3 months, was found guilty of multiple crimes: murder, kidnapping, violation of treaty, crimes against sentient beings. He was sentenced to imprisonment, not death. He would spend the rest of his life in a human facility, thinking about what he had done. Some in the Concordat thought this was weakness. They did not understand. Addressed the council after the trial concluded. "We have misunderstood humanity," she said. "We classified them as predators because of their biology. This was an error. Predators hunt to satisfy needs, hunger, territory, dominance. When satisfied, they stop. Humans do not stop when satisfied. They stop when their goal is achieved, however long that takes, whatever the cost." She paused, letting her words settle over the assembly. "This makes them terrifying enemies. They learned this on 4. They attacked expecting easy prey, and instead they found a species that pursued them relentlessly, that would not negotiate, would not retreat, would not accept anything less than complete resolution. Spread her wings. But this also makes humans invaluable allies. A human will chase justice across decades. They will remember a kindness for generations. They will hunt a wrong until it is righted. There is no statute of limitations in the human heart. What they hate forever. But what they love just as long." Had become the Concordat ambassador to human space. He lived among them now, learning their ways, trying to understand the strange species that had saved his life. He visited Captain Park once, a year after the battle. Park had retired from active service, haunted by the losses under his command. He lived quietly in a small house on a colony world, tending a garden, trying to find peace. "You saved 17 lives," told him. "You stopped them from hurting anyone else. Why do you seem so sad?" Park was kneeling in the dirt, planting flowers that did not recognize. "We lost 6 people at that station before we arrived. We lost 15 soldiers in the fighting, 21 lives." He shook his head. "I keep thinking about what I could have done differently, how I could have been faster, smarter, better." "You did everything possible." "Did I?" Park looked up at him with tired eyes. "That's the thing about humans, Ambassador. We never think we've done enough. We always believe we could have done more." Sat down next to him. "Is that a curse or a gift?" "Both," Park said. "It drives us to keep trying, keep improving, keep fighting. but it also means we never rest, never feel satisfied, we carry our failures forever. Thought about this for a long time. He was beginning to understand humans, but understanding did not mean agreement. Lieutenant took command of the Eternal Dawn after Park retired. She patrolled the borders of human space, watching for threats, protecting the weak. She visited the memorial on 4 every year on the anniversary of the battle. The memorial was simple, a stone wall with names carved into it, the dead from the station attack, the soldiers who fell in the fighting, all remembered, none forgotten. Sergeant Han Minyu trained the next generation of soldiers. He taught them tactics and weapons and survival skills. But mostly, he taught them the principle that had guided his entire career. The mission isn't over until everyone comes home, he told his students. Living or dead, you don't leave anyone behind. You don't give up on anyone. You fight until the fighting is done, and then you carry your people home. The Dominion changed after the Battle of 4. Not from moral awakening, they were still predators, still aggressive, still territorial. But they feared humans now. That fear changed their behavior. Their raids became less frequent. Their targets were chosen more carefully. They avoided human space, avoided human allies, avoided anything that might draw human attention. Because humans did not forget. Humans did not forgive. Humans would wait generations to right a wrong, and they would never, ever stop until it was done. Years later, a young student attended the Concordat Academy. She was part of a new generation, born after the war, taught to see the galaxy differently than her ancestors had. She took a class from Doctor, the human who had advised Admiral Song during the battle. He was old now, gray-haired and slow-moving, but his mind was still sharp. "Is it true," the student asked after class one day, "that humans never stop hunting?" Smiled gently. It was a question he had answered many times over the years. It's not about hunting, it's about caring. We don't stop because we can't bear to abandon the things that matter to us. People, principles, promises. A predator's hunger can be satisfied, but love, justice, hope, those hungers have no limit. The student considered this. That sounds exhausting. Laughed softly. It is, every day, every year. We are tired creatures, always running towards something, never quite reaching it. He paused, looking out the window at the stars. But that is also why we are still here, still reaching for the stars, still fighting for each other after 100,000 years of history. He turned back to the student. Predators stop when they are satisfied. Humans stop when we are dead, and sometimes not even then. We pass our dreams to the next generation, our loves, our hatreds, our unfinished business. The young nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand in her own way what made humans different. They were not stronger than other species, not smarter, not more numerous. They were simply relentless. And in a galaxy full of hunters and prey, of predators and victims, that relentlessness made all the difference. It made humans the species that could not be defeated by killing them, because even in death, they passed on what mattered. Their memory, their hope, their endless, exhausting, beautiful determination to keep going until the very end. And beyond,